Welcome, Bill.
She left out a few words at the very end of that bio, which is he is finishing various manuscripts, hiking with Pam, her Zazu, and with his affable werewolf, Mojo Buffalo Buddy. Can I read a couple of the short ones of Barry as well? Okay. I'm going to read from two poets, not myself. One name will be familiar to you, I think. Can you hear okay? Tyler Meyer, who's director at the fresh director at the Poetry Center.
He had to be at a school event for his daughter, and family's always more important. He really wanted to be here tonight.
He did, but he weighed the balance, and he said the divorce was not worth reading. The poem is called Our Century. And this is a really interesting poem of nuance. A man behaving as if the century is all that he has, or a woodpecker pounding the air conditioner, as if it could live off just the air. The facts of the world obsess us. Small blue barrel full of pigeon, also known as afternoon. Lifespan of a heart. Each window as a little box of sky, indexing what there is no such thing as grief, rootstock, illusion. What the sun does to a leaf back or tip, the regular theft of momentum or thrust. I have no crossing branches. I have no given pitch. I mistake every stone under the tree for a peach. Palisades of fence slat. You said, this is what love makes possible, and pointed up like all the sticks in the tree. The man across the street calls his dog, Oleander, Oleander, Oleander. Mercy is a place we caution against, then for. I have begun calling for his dog everywhere I go. My approach to the wind is to recognize it like the old friend that it is. Somehow, July saved the garden. Somehow, a straight line remains the history of absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Bill?
Yes?
Your camera turned off, and I don't know how to make it go.
Yours is on, isn't it? Okay, there we go. See, that's why. At one point when we'd been getting an enormous number of submissions and so on, we stopped and said, okay, we're getting overwhelmed with the riches here, but we're also missing people, and we haven't tried to, figure out who is it we haven't called yet and so on. And among the names that came up was Wendell Berry. And Wendell was my teacher some years back and a friend. So I called him and he said, yes, of course. He said, I've already written the poems even before the elections. And so I'm going to read you two short ones. They're from a Sabbath series. There are hundreds of Sabbath poems, he calls them. Every day is a holy day, a sacred day, I should say. And so they're all Sabbaths. This is written in 2005. If we have become a people incapable of thought, then the brute thought of mere power and mere greed will think for us. If we have become incapable of denying ourselves anything, then all that we have will be taken from us. If we have no compassion, we will suffer alone. We will suffer alone the destruction of ourselves. These are merely the laws of this world, as known to Shakespeare, as known to Milton. When we cease from human thought, a low and defective cunning stirs in the most inhuman minds. Chins up on this one, though. So shall we do without hope? Some days there will be none. But now to the dead and dry wood's floor they come again, the first flowers of the year, the assembly of the faithful, the beautiful, wholly given to being. And in this long season of machines and mechanical will, there have been small human acts of compassion, acts of care, work flower-like in selfless loveliness, leaving hope to the dark and to a better day. Receive these beauties freely given and give thanks. The poem I'm going to read was supposed to be in the Sublime Blue anthology. It's about translating Neruda, but I couldn't, there was one patch of it I just couldn't finish to get into that book. And after the book was published, I was reading yet another biography of Neruda, and I ran across his experience at what's in this poem, so I'll just say it was the Lota mine. I worked for a while over in San Manuel underground, and so this poem called The Only El Dorado That Is Real, retranslating Neruda, is about the people who voted for Trump, by and large, but from not quite the inside, but from a sympathetic side at any rate. And by the way, when I talked to Wendell, he said he was in the process of writing a piece of prose about this election, and he made it clear enough that I think one thing he's going to be doing is talking about the lot of the farmers and the coal miners and so on. He has been against coal mines totally, but very much pro-miner for decades and decades. It'd be very interesting essay he does. So my poem, the opening thing is from Neruda's statement. We must open America's matrix to bring out her glorious light. When he says America, he means North and South America and Central America altogether. Sometimes while sitting with you wide open, with dictionaries and coffee, local ravens and sirens just outside under the sun or among stars, from everywhere I still feel again that stark darkness pressing in as I descend in the iron cage through a shaft blasted deep into earth with all the others I cannot see who cannot see each other. Near here, for money, years ago, I worked in that big mine below the hills of Chaparral, helping to render solid earth treacherous with the hive of hollowed domes and shafts inhabited by laborers who've known this life forever. Down here, only the young talk of love. Those a little older boast of strange and GTOs. By 30, they will talk lovingly of their aging cars. But payments on the double wide and doctors for the wife and kids occupy their minds by then, take their dreams hostage. The eldest, having learned to take a certain delight from such darkness, pride themselves on their skills, splitting stones with huge hammers in a single blow, while we newcomers with younger muscles, pounding, 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 end our first shifts, half finished, but done in. While old-timers under hot showers whistle, we hoist our mud-caked gear, creaking up to the ceiling on great treble hooks gleaming, where, hung like so many gutted miners, by the next day, everything's dried as bone. I remember at the end of each shift that feeling as the man train brought us over dark rails through the fire door after fire door, brought us in from the lines farthest out, the places where no one would reach us if there was a fire. Back to the lift cage, rattling its half-mile up to the main shaft, often in silence, as everyone prayed the cables would hold yet again, and suddenly, there was the world. Desert bleached by blind sunlight, night sky opened wide by stars. Men die in such places, as you well know, some unbent, some broken, falling into holes they don't see, and the holes they do. And it was just such a place you came to, summoned from the labyrinths of the written word by men black-faced, black-lunged, eyes still fierce as fire. And it was there, at the Lota coal mine, that you found among the miners emerging, that one, face disfigured by fatigue, eyes blinking dust, rising as if out of hell onto the fiery nitrate field, who extended his hand to you, proclaiming, "I have known you, my brother, for a long time." When you were killed, Don Pablo, fearful for their own lives, the people braved machine guns, clubs, defying visors black as insect eyes to march, forbidden, through streets crying out your name, shouting and calling out lines from your poems, singing down into the darkness of death to you, hero of their love, hero of love's courage, you who mined their hearts tirelessly your whole life, refining that ore into the airy gold of hope. The only El Dorado real for them. The only El Dorado that is real. Thank you.
Yeah, somebody has to speak for the workers also, without speaking words of hate. I'm just so delighted to introduce our next reader, Peggy Shoemaker. Peggy is rare probably in this room because she actually is a native of Tucson. She grew up here and not many of us can make that claim. Peggy lives in many places on the earth, but mainly in Alaska. She also lives here. She lives in Hawaii with her wonderful husband, Joe, who's not here tonight. But Peggy was chosen as the Rasmussen Foundation's Distinguished Artist. She has served as Alaska State Writer Laureate. Cairn, her new and selected poems will be published by Red Hen Press in 2018. She edits the Alaska Literary Series and the Boreal Books Series. Peggy.
Happy Cesar Chavez Day to all of you, and thank you for coming out. I'm going to begin with a poem by a man named Dan Vera, and he is very proudly out as a